Since the dawn of civilization, humans have tried to understand the world through stories. Before science, before philosophy, before written history, people turned to mythology as their first framework for explaining reality. Every culture, no matter how distant or isolated, created its own system of gods, heroes, monsters, and cosmic events. These weren't just tales told around a fire. They were early attempts to answer the biggest questions humans have ever faced. Where did we come from? Why are we here? What forces shape our lives? And what happens after death? In this video, we'll take a clear and simple journey through the world's major mythologies, explore what made each one unique, and discover the surprising patterns that connect them. Whether you're brand new to mythology or already familiar with some of these stories, this guide will give you a deeper understanding of how humans once made sense of the universe and how many of those ideas still live with us today. Most ancient civilizations told stories about gods, monsters, and the beginning of the world. The strange thing is, even though these cultures lived thousands of miles apart, their myths often look suspiciously similar. A sky father, a great flood, a trickster, a sun god who dies and rises again. It's almost as if humanity kept rewriting the same story over and over. So today we're going to take a beginner-friendly tour across the world's major mythologies and uncover the patterns that connect them. Before we dive into specific cultures, let's answer a simple question. What actually is mythology? Mythology isn't just a collection of old stories. It's humanity's earliest attempt at explaining how everything around them works. Why the sun rises? Why storms happen? Why humans commit good and evil? And what happens after we die? In a world without science, myths acted like instruction manuals for the universe. They gave people a sense of order, purpose, and community, and surprisingly, these stories weren't random. Each one played a role. Some myths explained nature, some taught moral lessons, and some held a civilization together by giving people a shared identity. With that foundation, let's explore the world's best-known mythological systems. We'll start with Greek mythology, probably the most familiar to modern audiences. When most people imagine gods, they imagine the Greek ones, human-shaped, powerful, emotional, dramatic. The Greeks built their mythology around Mount Olympus, the home of the 12 Olympian gods. Zeus ruled the sky and thunder. Poseidon controlled the seas. Hades ruled the underworld. Athena represented wisdom and strategy, while Ares embodied pure war and bloodlust. What made Greek mythology unique was that the gods behaved like exaggerated humans. They fell in love, they got jealous, they fought one another, they made mistakes. Their flaws made them memorable and gave their stories a timeless dramatic quality. Greek myths also explored big philosophical themes: destiny, free will, pride, punishment, justice. The tragedy of Prometheus, punished for giving fire to humans, warned against challenging divine order. The story of Oedipus explored fate and the limits of human understanding. Even simple myths had layers of meaning. And because Greek mythology was preserved through literature, architecture, and art, it became one of the most influential mythic systems in history. Travel north into the cold lands of Scandinavia, and we find Norse mythology. This world was harder, darker, and more fatalistic than the Greek one. Norse mythology built its universe around Yggdrasil, the great world tree connecting 9 different realms. Asgard housed the gods. Midgard hosted humans. Jotunheim belonged to the giants. And beneath everything lay realms of fire, ice, and death. The central gods were Odin, the one-eyed seeker of knowledge; Thor, the thunder-wielding protector of humanity; Loki, the chaotic trickster; and Freya, the goddess of love, beauty, and sorcery. But unlike the Greek gods, the Norse gods weren't immortal in the same sense. They could die. And they knew they would die. Their entire mythology moved toward Ragnarok, the final great battle where gods, giants, monsters, and humans destroy each other. The sun is eaten. The world sinks into the sea. And yet a new world rises afterward. This cycle of destruction and rebirth reflected the brutal climate and warrior culture of the Vikings. For the Norse, even the gods could fall. What mattered was bravery, honor, and fighting until the very end. If we move south into Africa, we reach the deserts of the Nile and the rich mythology of ancient Egypt. Egyptian mythology revolved around cycles, day and night life, and death order and chaos. The sun god Ra traveled across the sky each day, then passed through the dangerous underworld each night fighting the serpent of chaos before rising again. Osiris embodied death and rebirth. His murder by his brother Set and resurrection through Isis became a symbol of eternal life. The Egyptians believed the universe depended on something called Ma'at, the principle of harmony, balance, and justice. As long as Ma'at was maintained, the world remained safe. But if it broke, chaos would take over. This deep belief in cosmic order shaped everything from government to architecture to burial customs. Egyptian mythology placed huge importance on the afterlife. Unlike the Greeks who saw the underworld as a shadowy fate, the Egyptians imagined a detailed spiritual journey filled with tests, judgments, and transformations. A person's heart was weighed against a feather. If it was pure, they reached paradise. If not, it was devoured by a monstrous creature. Their obsession with the afterlife explains mummies, pyramids, and elaborate tombs, all designed to prepare the soul for eternity. Travel east to the Indian subcontinent, and we find Hindu mythology, one of the oldest and most philosophically rich mythic systems still practiced today. At its core lies a cosmic cycle: creation, preservation, destruction, and rebirth. This cycle is mirrored in the Trimurti Brahma, the creator Vishnu, the preserver, and Shiva, the destroyer. But unlike Western mythologies, Hindu mythology doesn't confine itself to a single set of gods. It encompasses countless deities, avatars, and cosmic expressions, all ultimately connected to one universal spiritual essence known as Brahman. Vishnu's avatars, like Rama and Krishna, serve as moral guides in human form. Shiva represents transformation and meditation. Devi, the divine feminine, appears in many powerful forms, like Durga and Kali. Hindu mythology is deeply symbolic. Stories are not just events. They're metaphors for inner struggles, cosmic laws, and philosophical truths. The concept of karma explains moral cause and effect. Dharma describes righteous duty. Reincarnation frames life as part of a continuous spiritual evolution. These ideas gave Hindu mythology a unique complexity and longevity, influencing art, culture, literature, and everyday life for thousands of years. Now we move to China, home of a mythology shaped by philosophy, imperial rule, ancestor, worship, and the forces of nature. Chinese mythology doesn't revolve around a single pantheon like the Greeks or Norse. Instead, it forms a vast network of god spirits, immortals, legendary emperors, and cosmic principles. The highest force was the mandate of heaven, a kind of divine approval that granted emperors the right to rule. If natural disasters or social chaos occurred, it meant the emperor had lost this divine mandate. Myths about the creation of humanity often center on Nuwa, a serpent-bodied goddess who shaped humans from clay and repaired the heavens after a cosmic disaster. Dragons symbolized power, luck, and imperial authority, not monsters, but wise guardians. Chinese mythology also emphasized harmony between heaven, earth, and humankind. Taoist and Buddhist influences blended into the stories, adding ideas about balance, duality, immortality, and enlightenment. Compared to other mythologies, Chinese myths feel less like dramas between gods and more like lessons about living in balance with the universe. Before we reach our conclusion, it's worth asking a big question. Why do all these mythologies look so similar? Why does every culture have a sky god, a flood story, a trickster, a battle between order and chaos? The simplest answer is that human beings everywhere face the same fundamental mysteries. Everyone sees the sun rise. Everyone experiences storms, death, love, betrayal, and fear. Different cultures use different characters, but they were all trying to answer the same questions. Another explanation is that ideas traveled. Even ancient civilizations traded, migrated, and exchanged stories more than we think. Indo-European cultures, for example, share roots that explain similarities between Greek, Norse, Hindu, and even Slavic mythologies. But beyond historical reasons, the deeper truth is that mythology mirrors the human mind. We create stories to understand our place in the world. When the world feels unpredictable, we imagine forces that explain it. When we need moral guidance, we create heroes and villains. When we fear death, we create afterlives. When we hope for better futures, we create rebirths. So, what is mythology really, not just old stories? Mythology is a window into how ancient people thought, lived, and felt. It shows what they valued, what they feared, what they dreamed of. And surprisingly, those ancient concerns are still with us. Modern stories, superhero movies, fantasy novels, sci-fi epics are just new mythologies wearing new costumes. We're still telling stories about powerful beings, heroic quests, cosmic battles, and the struggle between good and evil. Mythology never died. It simply evolved. Understanding these myths helps us understand ourselves. They remind us that even without science, technology, or modern knowledge, humans everywhere searched for meaning. They tried to turn chaos into order, and they used stories to make sense of a world far bigger than themselves. Maybe that's why these myths still resonate today. They are ancient, but they feel strangely familiar. Because beneath all the gods and monsters, they're really about us. Mythology may have begun as humanity's earliest science, but its real power goes far beyond explanation. These stories reveal how ancient people saw themselves, what they valued, and what they feared. And even today, in a world of satellites, computers, and modern physics, the themes of mythology still shape the stories we tell. Every superhero, every fantasy epic, every chosen one narrative carries the same ancient DNA. Mythology is not something we left behind. It's something we continue to rewrite. If you enjoyed this journey through the world's mythologies and want to explore individual cultures more deeply, let me know which ones you'd like to see next. Thank you for watching, and remember, the oldest stories often tell us the most about who we are today.